Supporters of President Tinubu passionately argue that, despite inheriting a myriad of economic challenges from the previous administration, significant strides have been made in addressing these issues. They believe it's crucial to evaluate the progress over time, emphasizing a journey of resilience and growth. On the flip side, critics voice their concerns, asserting that the government's relief measures have fallen short, leaving many households grappling with financial insecurity. They draw attention to the alarming rise in insurgency attacks as a glaring indicator of the deteriorating security landscape. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes evident that the political landscape under Tinubu's leadership has grown increasingly divisive. Allegations of toxicity permeate the atmosphere, raising profound questions about governance, future political stability, and the public's dwindling trust. Yet, amidst these challenges, the situation remains tenuous. Incidences of violence have led to widespread homelessness, underscoring an urgent need for sustained efforts aimed at enhancing security and rebuilding communities. The appointment of Major General Abdul Salam Abubakar as the 15th commander in just 15 years speaks volumes about the persistent challenges faced in combating insurgency in the region. This rapid turnover raises eyebrows about the effectiveness of current military strategies. Military analysts stress the indispensable role of stable leadership in ensuring effective strategy implementation. The frequent shifts in command can disrupt progress, leading to a fragmented approach in addressing security threats. As this narrative unfolds, the emphasis on consistency in leadership during conflicts becomes paramount. Fluctuating command structures can sow disorganization within the military ranks, severely impacting effective decision-making. Meanwhile, President Tinubu's commitment to bolstering military funding underscores a focus on enhancing security measures. However, lingering doubts persist regarding the actual implementation of impactful solutions that can bring tangible change. Recent statistics tell a troubling story. An alarming increase in Boko Haram attack signals that security issues in Nigeria's northeast are not merely persistent, they are escalating even amidst leadership changes in the military. The roots of Nigeria's security challenges stretch back through the annals of time, echoing the struggles of past administrations. This historical backdrop paints a picture of a long-standing issue, one that continues to affect peace and stability in the region. As the Nigerian armed forces actively engage in countering these threats, a dual narrative emerges. Progress is evident, yet the need for continued support from both citizens and leaders remains crucial to forge a path forward. It's important to recognize the tireless efforts of local leaders, including governors, who are diligently working to manage the fallout from security incidents and provide aid to affected communities. Their commitment is an essential thread in the fabric of recovery. However, recent attacks by Boko Haram and ISWAP have resulted in significant military casualties and resource looting, revealing a troubling trend in security dynamics. These harrowing incidents ignite urgent concerns about the safety of citizens. Compounding these issues, the increasing use of roadside bombs has led to tragic civilian casualties, indicating a shift in tactics from insurgent groups. This evolution in strategy fosters a climate of fear and instability that communities find increasingly hard to bear. As worries mount regarding the effectiveness of military forces in addressing these formidable threats, the call for improved strategies and resources becomes ever more pressing. Such considerations are vital to prevent further loss of life. In the economic arena, stagnating wages amidst climbing inflation only exacerbate the hardships faced by everyday citizens. This economic strain calls for urgent interventions to alleviate the growing financial burden on families. A metaphor emerges likening the current state of the economy to a patient suffering from a cancerous tumor. Just as surgery, though painful, is essential for recovery, so too must economic reforms be implemented despite the potential for short-term discomfort. With unemployment and poverty spiraling to alarming heights, Nigeria finds itself earning the unenviable title of the poverty capital of the world. The policies in place are increasingly deemed ineffective, igniting discussions about the dire need for substantial reform. Amidst these challenges, a recent decline in the price of essential goods, such as rice, offers a glimmer of hope. This shift reflects the volatile nature of commodity costs, directly impacting household expenses and financial planning. Conversely, fuel prices have surged dramatically, from 175 naira to over 1,000 naira per liter, raising significant alarms about economic stability. This staggering increase ripples through the economy, affecting transportation and the cost of living for countless families. There seems to be a growing consensus among political leaders to remove fuel subsidies, but this shift raises pressing questions regarding the need for protective measures for the public. The implications of this policy realignment are far-reaching and critical for the welfare of the citizens.
After nearly 2 years in office, as the midterm approaches, there is a tense national debate about how well the Tinubu administration has performed amid brutal economic pain. Mr. Tinubu's supporters say that things are working better at the most fundamental level and across the board. But the opposition insists that many households have been left struggling and the government's relief measures have had little impact. The president's supporters counter by saying he's making significant progress on easing the crisis his administration inherited, even though the previous government belonged to the same APC party. Meanwhile, the frequency of insurgency attacks are up, without a commensurate response by the government, according to critics. And on the political front, there are allegations that the administration has created a more toxic and divisive environment. So how big a blight has all this been on the president's first 2-year tenure? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Senator Adams Oshiomhole, CON, who represents Edo North in the Senate. He's a former national chairman of the APC and is a former governor of Edo State. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, my dear friend.
Great to see you again.
I'm honored to be here.
Would it be fair to describe you as a staunch ally of President Tinubu?
Correct.
In that regard, what can you say that is of considerably beneficial significance to the Nigerian people since President Tinubu came to office 2 years ago?
Well, there are a couple of things. For those of us who believe that, when the economists talk about man being a rational economic animal, it presupposes that there's a level playing field and people work hard to earn. Before President Bola Ahmed assumed office, it was easy for some, very few people, but they took a huge sum by just manipulating on the financial system and turn a huge number to themselves and pauperize the rest of the people. This leads to distortion in consumption, leads to distortions in values, and mislead to younger people who think that what matters in Nigeria is not who you know. Sorry, it's not what you know, but who you know. I think that policy has effectively been eliminated by the president. That's to say, this regime of dual exchange rate. People may underestimate the import of it, but I think it is huge. It is huge. That was the time people, young boys, were bringing Lamborghini with an aircraft because you didn't have to earn it. And from what we know now, the amount of abuse was huge. Number two, if you have to try to understand the current exchange rate regime, you have to look at the reckless use of ways and means by the central bank, by the monetary authorities, and the fact that there was no communication between the monetary and the economic sector. It was an open debate where finance minister says, I am not aware of CBA decision on this. And so people were micromanaging their little bits, and of course Nigeria was the worst for it. The second, I think, is even what I heard you say now about security. It's not all or nothing. Whether in academics, in our daily experiences, it is not either that you win all or you lose all. To measure progress is to look at where you were and compared to where you are. It is not my opinion now. I have been present in many places where, for example, people from part of the Northeast admitted to the fact that under Tinubu, the coordination of security is more effective, and places that they couldn't go before, they could go there now. That does not mean that occasionally they will not go for sub-target and attack.
You mean the same Northeast where 20,000 people have been made homeless today, and the governor is complaining?
It's happened just today.
We're hearing Mate.
But if you remember, if you are going to talk like this, you have to trace the history. There was once upon a time where this country, part of Maiduguri, people couldn't go there. A Nigeria president couldn't visit Maiduguri.
Yeah, but the fear is that it's returning to that
we
again.
this year went to Maiduguri to say no. Maiduguri is part of Nigeria. People couldn't even go to mosque. So that's why I say it is not about whether you have totally solved a problem or the problem is it's gotten worse and worse. What I can say with confidence is that there is improvement. How much improvement there is, how much more we need to do, there's quite much more to do.
Right.
Just yesterday, I watched through Arise Television, it was the day before yesterday, people from Northwest, the governor of Kaduna, gave a template of what they have accomplished security-wise, such that a place like Birnigwari, which was no longer touchable, I mean, people couldn't go there, except with heavy armored vehicles, etc. People can now go there without escort. He also referred to the fact that Southern Kaduna, this one I watched from the media, the Southern Kaduna is a lot safer now than it used to be. That is not to suggest that either the president or anyone any Nigerian for that matter, is happy about the current level. It can be better and it has to be better. But the point to make is that let nobody suggest that it is now worse. It is not.
Well, let me, on the basis of that, let me ask you, because we're hearing that Nigeria has just named a new commander, Major General Abdul Salam Abubakar, to take charge and lead the fight against groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP in the northeast. He is the 15th commander to be named since the operation began some 15 years ago. So a 15th commander appointed in a conflict that's been raging for 15 years, that suggests that a commander is changed every year on average. Do you think that's helpful for leadership and proper coordination on the ground? Doesn't that suggest that there is something, I mean, fatally wrong? You have to ask why he's being appointed now.
How you choose to interpret them. The fact that even if the president chooses to change the commander every other day, it shows that his eyes on the job. He will not go to take nonsense for an answer.
Yeah, but
and if I give you an assignment, sure, and you are doing well and I'm not satisfied, I keep changing.
Yeah.
What do you want him to do? Is it a permanent, Nigeria permanent representation?
Yeah, but we're talking about an insurgency.
I don't think, no. You can't use the number of commanders or the frequency or the rate at which commanders are changed as a basis to measure progress or lack of progress.
Well, let me tell you why I said that.
Yeah.
Military analysts have argued that you need to have a commander who can strategize, who can plan, and who can implement. And who can implement that plan for at least 2 years consistently. These are military analysts.
Okay, maybe I should ask you,
how many commanders
has President Tinubu appointed?
Well, let me just make the point. Before you start to see success, but when you're changing them every year, then it becomes difficult to plan and implement, doesn't it?
No. I will ask you the question.
If you're changing senators every year, then you're not going to have consistency of lawmaking.
Democracy requires that we change them every 4 years, or even earlier, if the electorate so decide. It's not up to you and I to determine.
No, I understand.
But
there's a reason why.
No, don't distract me for your question.
Okay, sorry. Please, go ahead.
Answer. How many commanders has President Tinubu changed from Maiduguri? Well, you say from when the war began. Can you remember where the war began? It was during Jonathan, but the problem started during Obasanjo.
Well, the actual war began around 2009. That's when the actual war began.
Yeah, but the crisis of Boko Haram had been there from the time of President Obasanjo.
Well, there was...
So if you are going to measure the number of commanders, I don't really think this one Nigerians, if they want to change commanders every year, once upon a time, President Buhari was being accused of allowing the service chief to overstay. Then I was chairman of APC. And President Buhari keeps saying to us that you don't change a commander in the middle of war. That's his own opinion as a commander. Another commander in chief could decide otherwise. That's why I ask you, the number that have been changed, how many occur that president?
Well, it is...
Because it will not be fair for you to imply, because you are not evaluating Nigeria since 1960. You are evaluating Nigeria since President Tinubu took over 2 years ago.
We're evaluating...
So if you have issues about numbers,
right,
you must limit the issues to the number of people, the number of commanders that have been changed over the past 2 years compared to what it used to be before Tinubu came in. But if you ask me, honestly speaking, I do not think Nigerians bother. Now, those who are advising you about it's better to keep them for a certain number of period. If I ask, maybe they are retired ones. You typical Nigeria football match.
Maybe there.
The coach is the only one who doesn't know that he should have withdrawn one player. He should have put three.
Well, let me tell you why I'm asking you. Well, let me tell you.
But the point to be made is this.
Right.
The point to be made is this. Just a few days back, the president reassured Nigerians that he is going to reinforce funding. He will do everything he can to empower the armed forces to do what they have to do to terminate all this insurgency.
Right. Well,
in whatever way they rear their head. So that suggests to me that no one is much more concerned about finding a lasting, sustainable solution to the problem of insecurity than the president himself.
Well, it's not about concern, it's about actually doing something about it. And let me say this.
But that's what I said.
If you look at...
I didn't say he's talking about it.
Right.
You are the one telling me now that he's changing commanders. Is that not doing something?
If you look at...
he's changing the commander the way you change your master of ceremony?
If you look at open source data, they indicate that attacks are rising, and they suggest...
Who are these people?
And they suggest, that's what I mean by open source data. That means across the board. They suggest that in the first 3 months of this year alone, there have been some 300 Boko Haram attacks in Borno State alone, in which more than 500 people have been killed and almost the same number have been abducted. That suggests that insecurity in the Northeast is getting worse, not better, doesn't it? Speak to the governor who's there. He's coming out, even just earlier in the day, he was coming out to say that more than 20,000 people have been displaced in one part of the Northeast as a result of his state, as a result of these attacks.
With all due respect to you, I think you are recycling this same question in different forms.
Well,
there is no suggestion before you. Excuse me, with due respect, there is no suggestion to the effect that everywhere is peaceful now. I haven't said so, and I've not had anyone who has said so.
Yeah, but it's the frequency of the attacks.
And if you talk about frequency, you may have to find out from those whose business it is to collate.
Well, that's exactly what we've been doing.
That is not my bit.
Right.
My bit is to listen to people, as a senator, for example, to listen to people. I heard a senator narrating on the floor of the Senate that people from his own constituency in part of the Northeast who have not been able to go to farm are now able to go to farm. That letter was read on the floor of the Senate. I will listen to him, because he's a senator, he's elected by his people.
But you won't listen to the governor who's in charge of the state.
That's up to you. If you choose to, no, I don't agree with all due respect, you are overflogging it. Well, because you are suggesting, you just want to make a point, which is unnecessary. There is no issue about whether or not we have security challenges. It has been there since President Obasanjo. It got worse during President Jonathan to a point that national elections were postponed by 2 months. I was a governor that time. It got to a point where Boko Haram hosts foreign flags on Nigeria soil, that 28 local government was no longer under Nigeria control. This problem have been there. In Abuja here, Boko Haram bombed the police headquarters. In Abuja here, Nangulu, you won't forget that the United Nations building,
very well.
United Nations building was attacked in the heart of Abuja.
Well. Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Absolutely.
So is it not reasonable to say that whereas there is this serious problem of insecurity, but the audacity with which they used to move, it appears the Nigerian armed forces are curtailing them effectively.
Yeah.
That is not to say the problem is over. What we should be doing, what citizens do in other countries, is to salute the effort of the armed forces. You don't dismiss them as if it's
Senator,
a Christmas party.
I think the issue here...
I'm not going to say more on this.
Yeah.
Because I am not here. You call me a senator. You have not called me a retired military officer.
I understand that.
Fine. So
and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
We have spoken enough for security.
Yeah.
But all I want to tell you is
not trying to put
I
you
have been in this Abuja, where even the policemen felt unsafe at the police headquarters. That speaks volume, because the headquarters was bombed. United Nations, with all the security around it, it was bombed by Boko Haram. So we must go through the full gamut to try to understand where we're coming from,
I think
when it got to a peak, where we are now. But don't push me to suggest, or do not try to imply that anyone is suggesting that there's conflict between what the governor is saying and what the senator has. Well, what the senator said. There is nothing contradicting anything. They both admit that there are problems, but nobody is sleeping on it.
Sure. If I can
the governor is working very hard. He's doing everything to deal with the aftermath of all those attacks, which is very commendable. He's taking risks, going to everywhere. And sometimes you wonder whether he has special armor. He's doing everything. I don't think he's sleep. I look at his eye bag. I said, this man is not sleeping.
Right. Well, we're going to move on from security. But I think the point that needs to be made is nobody's saying that
all of us. The point that needs to be made.
Let me just make the point.
Is that we shouldn't celebrate criminality.
No. Hold on.
We should acknowledge. Excuse me. We must acknowledge. I watch CNN. I watch international cable. When a nation is under attack by criminals, all hands should be on deck, including the media.
Yeah, that's exactly the point.
You're making that our point. But not to seem to be celebrating or implies.
Nobody is celebrating.
Do you know that families have lost soldiers? Senior military officers, colonel, majors, captains.
Nobody.
Not to talk of other that have been waiting.
Senator,
when they see us talk like
this is a dialogue, not a monologue.
No, I understand. But I
well, you don't understand. If you did, you wouldn't.
I want us to encourage our armed forces, even as we have huge challenges, and there's a huge gap between where we are and where we want to be.
Senator, you're making a political statement. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is assessing whether things have... Nobody said that things have got as bad as they were a few years ago. But the issue here is, do they appear to be getting worse from where they were perhaps a couple of years ago? And that's the issue. We've seen attacks by Boko Haram and ISWAP on military installations, military camps in several locations in Borno and Yobe states. And in each of these attacks, they are reported to have overrun the camp, killed some soldiers and captured others. And then they looted the camps, stealing weapons and food. On top of that, we're also seeing things like roadside bombs being planted randomly on major roads, which have blown up commercial vehicles. And recently, 26 people were killed in one such incident. It's not about comparing what it was before or what it is now. It is about what is happening on the ground today. What do you think are the factors responsible for this resurgence? That's how we're going to have to deal with that. But I'm quite happy to move on from there.
I think we are fixated on recycling the same thing, because there is no suggestion between me and you. I have no suggestion to you that it is over. Because there was a time you forgot that even to take a train from here to
and that is very true. I agree.
You know, I saw Kaduna governor say that you cannot come to Kaduna without such escort.
Indeed.
So if all you want to amplify is the one that is recurring, and you are not going to admit to where progress has been made, I don't belong to that school.
No.
That's why I said life is not about whether you have everything going for you 100% or you have zero.
I think the issue...
The issue for me is, are the armed forces sleeping? The answer is no. Can they do much more? The answer is yes. Has security improved? Yes. Can we do much more? We obviously have to do much more.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, well, let's move on.
Because I am unable to keep quiet knowing that people have died for this country.
Right.
Or that whether it's Boko Haram, it's ISWAP, it's bandit, whatever you call it.
Yeah, let's move on.
And it's good that we pay respect to their memory.
Yes, of course we do. And it's because of their memory, that's why we're focusing on this, so that those soldiers don't lose their lives and citizens don't lose their lives. So we can't paper over it and say, oh, this is much better. It's not a political comparison. It's about the fact that people are getting killed. Let me move on from that. The questions many are asking, for example, I mean, we're assessing the 2 years of Tinubu in office. One of the things that have been talked about is his policies, the policies that he has put in place, about how those policies are being implemented, and if the average Nigerian is feeling their impact in a positive way, that, you know, or whether those policies have been hurting them. And In terms of the buying power, for example, of many Nigerians, you talked about the naira and the exchange rate and all the rest of it. If you look at where they were before President Tinubu came to office and where they are now, it's pretty clear that things have got considerably worse, haven't they? Most people are poorer now in terms of their buying power than they were when he came into office. Isn't that true? Maybe you're not poorer, but a lot of other people are poorer.
You don't look poorer either. So you want to
I like that. Now, there's a great comeback, isn't it?
Great, fine. Now, the point is this. I think it is just a repetition for me now because once nobody dispute the fact that if inflation is in double digit, an economy is under double-digit inflation consistently, and wages and income are stagnating, or even where they increase, they have no increase proportionate to the rate of inflation. The story is clear. People are hurting. So it's not something that needs to be overflogged. Now, the issue is, was there a better way to manage a patient that was under critical condition, that has a cancerous tumor, that you could choose to wish it away because the patients appear to be able to walk until the thing spread to grade 4, in which case it's about when will he die, not whether he will die, or you find the courage to carry out a surgery, knowing fully well that in opening up the patient and try to cut out the tumor, that will require that even in the first instance, you put the patient to sleep. And when he recovers, that he will have to be willed to a rest place to recover. That recovery implies that he will experience some pain. You will continue to apply 2 categories of medication, both pain relief as well as the retreatment.
But that person has to have the hope that
as a surgeon, you derive satisfaction from the fact that you are confident that once this tumor is taken out and is cured, that the patient will find his feet and he can return to Olympic Games if he has skill for that in the first instance. But there's no suggestion that when you, except if you belong to those who think that the state of affairs by 2023 May, that Nigeria was a paradise, everything was fine.
Well, I mean, it's your party, the APC.
Forget about the party now. You say we shouldn't talk politics. I think sometimes you want to eat your cake and have it. On the one hand, you remind me we are not talking politics, although you have to define what politics is. Well, I mean, on the other hand, when I reply you say that is political. You are the one talking about cost of living, and I'm talking about cost of living.
Yeah.
I'm saying, if we were to play back my interview with you on Arise before that election that brought Tinubu, you were crying loud that the government has failed. The economic policies are completely hopeless. Unemployment, Nigeria has become the capital of the
poverty capital of the world.
The poverty capital of the world. You roll out statistics, whether they are backed up with evidence or not, that's what and so forth. This I watched from Arise TV as well as other sources. That's why I ask you, if you are of the view that this were otherwise very good, it's only Tinubu that has come and messed it up, it's okay. That is not the view of many other people.
Well,
Tinubu came in as a surgeon who had to deal with a patient that was ailing critically. And because we shouldn't talk of politics, we don't need to pursue the argument further. Whatever makes the patient find himself in that condition, that is the condition under which this surgeon came in to carry out what obviously is a painful surgery. And the doctor knows from the beginning that there will be consequences in the short run.
Yeah, but if
I will repeat what I said. Now, if I go home, I don't know how often you go home, but I am obliged to go home to my village and to talk to other people. I have lived there. My mother lives there. And I found, like most people like you and I do, during Christmas, you buy some stuff to give to your families. I found that the cost of a bag of rice in December is much lower now than it was 4 months ago in December.
Well, let me get a word in there before we have to end, because I mean, the program obviously, unfortunately, it's great talking with you. But if the price of fuel was at 175 naira in May 2023 per litre.
Leave the argument.
And today, we see you're interrupting me. You don't want me to make the point. And today it is at over 1,000 naira. What kind of pain do you think that has inflicted on Nigerians in a country where the average
subscribe to free enterprise
and the economy depend almost entirely on fuel for everything?
Everybody television, you all have lectured me, Oshiomhole, to understand that we are wasting money.
Don't forget you were a Labour leader.
They were telling you now that you forgot.
You were a Labour leader. Remember that.
You see, you want to eat your cake and have it. You were the one lecturing me as a Labour leader.
Do you think your Labour leaders will agree with you now? Do you think your current Labour leaders will agree with you?
The elite. You pro-market.
You say I'm the elite? You're the elite.
No. Pro-market analyst. When we were fighting subsidy, you lectured us that no. I said, if you withdraw subsidy, this will happen. But you guys said, no, you need to withdraw it. All the candidates, whether it's Tinubu, whether it's Obi, whether it's Atiku, they all said they will withdraw the subsidy.
Yeah, but there needed to be cushioning of that removal of subsidy, and it wasn't there.
You even said NNPC. So don't bring that. That's why I said don't go there. Because that one, there was unanimity. And people like us who have been fighting over the years, we were seen as... So now the elite, when I say elite, I mean it. Go and review the editorials. Labour, we should allow, this is wasteful. Who are people having cars? Workers have no car. You are just subsidizing the rich. Those were the argument. So in any case, why I said don't go there, Atiku said he will not only withdraw subsidy, he will sell NNPC. Peter Obi said he will withdraw subsidy. Tinubu said he will withdraw subsidy. Therefore, there was consensus among the ruling class that the subsidy will withdraw. They ought to know that when you withdraw what is being subsidized, it means you pay market price.
Right.
And so when that market price begins to prevail, it cannot be an argument for you. So it's not something you want to put to me, really.
You're a good person to talk with, and I really enjoyed chatting with you.
I watch you every day too.
And you're a good, you're a convivial guest, and I appreciate that. I think I love the way that you make your points in a very nice and very sort of civil way. So thank you for that. Senator Adams Oshiomhole, CON, represents Edo North in the Senate, is a former national chairman of the APC, a former governor of Edo State, and a former Labour leader. Good to see you again.